My brother, Caleb, was gone. The call came at 2 a.m., my mom's voice a shattered thing, barely audible over her sobs. "He's gone, Noah," she said. "Caleb's gone." I sat on my apartment floor, all 600 square feet of it, clutching my phone, the world tilting under me. My name is Noah Carter, and at 29, I lost the one person who'd always seen me, the one who'd held me together when I came out as gay at 17, when our conservative town turned its back. Now, he was Ash, and I was falling apart. Caleb was my anchor. 2 years older, he was the brave one, star of the high school track team, the guy who'd punch a bully for calling me a slur, the one who'd drive 300 miles from Seattle to Portland just to bring me coffee when I was stressed. We'd grown up in a small Oregon town, all strip malls and church steeples, where being gay was a sin whispered about in pews. When I came out, my parents didn't kick me out, but their silence was worse. Dinners where no one looked at me, prayers for my healing. Caleb was different. He hugged me, said, "You're still you, Noah," and helped me move to Portland for college, where I could breathe. He was my brother, my best friend, and now he was a box of ashes on my mom's mantle. 2 months later, my world cracked again. My boyfriend, Ryan, walked out. We'd been together 6 years, building a life in Portland's Hawthorne district. Lazy Sundays at Powell's Books, late-night tacos from a food cart, dreams of a house with a backyard for a dog. Ryan was a barista with a crooked smile and a knack for making me laugh, the one who'd held my hand at Caleb's funeral, promising we'd get through it. But grief is a wedge, and I was unraveling. I drank too much, cheap whiskey burning away the nights I couldn't sleep. I snapped at Ryan, pushed him away when he tried to help, drowned in a fog of pain I couldn't explain. By November, he was done. "I can't keep watching you destroy yourself, Noah," he said, his bags packed, his eyes empty. The door shut, and the silence was louder than Caleb's absence. That summer, 2023, was the darkest I'd ever known. It felt like the ground had vanished, leaving me in free fall. I was 30, alone, my mental health a spiral of despair. I stopped going to my job as a graphic designer, letting emails pile up until my boss sent a polite "take some time" notice. My apartment became a prison, the walls closing in with empty bottles and takeout boxes. I self-soothed in ways I'm ashamed of. Nights at bars where I'd lose myself in strangers, faces I didn't care to remember, moments that left me emptier than before. I'd wake up, head pounding, staring at myself in the mirror. A stranger with bloodshot eyes, my once neat beard scruffy, my morals out the door. I didn't recognize this Noah. I tried to hold on to Caleb's memory, but even that betrayed me. I'd drive to the spot where he died, a stretch of highway marked by a small cross I'd made from driftwood, and sit there, sobbing, begging him to come back. I'd scroll through his old texts, his voice echoing in my head. "You're tougher than you think, kid," but I wasn't. I called Ryan once, drunk, leaving a rambling voicemail I regretted instantly. He didn't call back. My parents, still in that town, didn't reach out either, their grief a reminder of the son they preferred, not the one left behind. My friends tried at first, texts, a few visits, but my darkness was too much, and they faded, their lives moving on while mine stood still. The world felt cruel, a relentless assault on a heart I couldn't protect. I'd lie awake, the Portland rain drumming on my window, wondering why I was still here. Caleb was gone, Ryan was gone, I was gone. I thought about ending it, pills, a bridge, anything to stop the pain, but something held me, maybe fear, maybe the ghost of Caleb's laugh. I'd clutch his old hoodie, the one he'd left at my place, its scent fading but still his, and cry until I had nothing left. This was my life now, a void, a spiral, a man I didn't know. And yet, I kept waking up, kept breathing, kept falling deeper into the dark. The Portland rain was relentless, hammering my apartment windows like it wanted to break through. It was January 2023, for months since Caleb's death, 2 since Ryan left, and I was a ghost haunting my own life. My name is Noah Carter, and at 30, I was drowning in a darkness I couldn't escape. The 600 square feet of my apartment in the Hawthorne district, once filled with Ryan's laughter and Caleb's impromptu visits, was now a tomb of empty whiskey bottles and unwashed dishes. I lost my brother, my partner, my friends, and worst of all, myself. The world wasn't just cruel. It was a void, and I was falling through it. I hadn't been to work in weeks. My graphic design job, once a source of pride with my logos on local coffee shop menus, was a distant memory. My boss's last email, "Noah, take all the time you need," felt like a polite goodbye. I didn't care. I spent my days on the couch, Caleb's old hoodie draped over me, its fading scent a cruel reminder of what I'd lost. Nights were worse. I'd stumble to bars in southeast Portland, places with sticky floors and neon signs that blurred through my drunken haze. I'd find someone, anyone, to share a fleeting moment with, their faces forgotten by morning. Each encounter left me hollower, my confidence crumbling like the driftwood cross I'd placed on I-5, where Caleb died. I'd drive to that cross every few days, a 20-mile trip that felt like a pilgrimage to nowhere. The highway stretched out, cold and indifferent, the spot marked by my makeshift memorial, now weathered by rain. I'd sit on the gravel shoulder, staring at the cross, whispering to Caleb, "Why'd you leave me?" I'd ask, my voice breaking. "I'm not strong enough for this." The wind was my only answer, carrying away my words like it carried away his life. I'd sob until my chest ached, then drive back, the city's lights mocking me with their normalcy. My parents were no help. They were still in that small Oregon town, 50 miles away, wrapped in their own grief. I called once, desperate for something, comfort, acknowledgement, anything. Mom answered, her voice flat. "We're managing, Noah. You should too." No mention of Caleb, no question about me. Dad didn't even come to the phone. Their silence was a knife, twisting deeper because I was the wrong son, the gay one who'd never fit their mold. Caleb had been their pride. I was their shame. I stopped calling, their rejection a wound I couldn't bandage. Ryan's absence was a different kind of pain. I'd see him in everything. The coffee shop where he'd worked, its chalkboard menu still bearing his handwriting. The park where we'd walked, now empty of his crooked smile. I sent him another voicemail one night, slurring through tears. "I'm sorry, Ryan. I didn't mean to push you away." He didn't respond. I checked his Instagram, a masochistic ritual, and saw him smiling with someone new, a guy with a beard and a flannel shirt, their arms around each other at a concert. 6 years, gone, replaced like I'd never mattered. I threw my phone across the room, the screen cracking, a mirror of my heart. My friends were ghosts too. They tried it first, after Caleb's funeral, texts, a coffee invite, a knock on my door I didn't answer. But I was too much, my grief a black hole that swallowed their efforts. By February, their messages stopped. I'd see their lives on social media, brunches, hikes, laughter, while I was a shadow, invisible. I didn't blame them, not really. Who want to sit with someone who couldn't stop breaking? But their absence stung, another layer of loss in a life already stripped bare. I tried to draw, to reclaim the part of me that used to find solace in lines and colors. My sketch pad, once filled with vibrant cityscapes, now held jagged scribbles, angry slashes, dark voids, nothing I recognized. I'd stare at the pages, my hands shaking, and throw them across the room, the paper crumpling like my resolve. Even my art had abandoned me, leaving only the stranger in the mirror. My beard was unkempt, my eyes sunken, my skin pale from too many nights without sleep. "Who are you?" I'd whisper, but he didn't answer. The summer loomed, a specter I dreaded. Portland's warmth, its festivals and food carts, felt like a betrayal, a world moving on while I was stuck in this spiral. I'd walk the streets at night, the Willamette River glinting under bridges, and think about jumping, about letting the water take me. Something stopped me, maybe Caleb's voice, faint in my memory. "You're tougher than you think." But I wasn't tough. I was a wreck, self-soothing with liquor and fleeting encounters, each one a nail in the coffin of the Noah I'd been. My mental health wasn't just spiraling, it was gone, replaced by a numbness that scared me more than the pain. One night, I found Caleb's old guitar in my closet, the one he'd played at campfires, his fingers strumming Springsteen covers. I tried to play, my fingers clumsy on the strings, but the sound was wrong, discordant like my life. I smashed it against the wall, the wood splintering, and sank to the floor, sobbing. This was who I was now, a man who broke everything he touched, who couldn't find a way out. The rain kept falling, the world kept turning, and I kept falling deeper into the dark, with no light in sight. March 2023 arrived in Portland, but spring's promise was a mockery. The cherry blossoms bloomed along the Willamette, their pink petals a cruel contrast to the gray void inside me. My name is Noah Carter, and at 30, I was a stranger to myself, lost in the wreckage of Caleb's death, Ryan's departure, and a summer that loomed like a guillotine. My 600-square-foot apartment in the Hawthorne district was a mausoleum, its walls stained with the ghosts of whiskey spills and sleepless nights. I'd stopped checking my phone. No one called, not my parents, not Ryan, not the friends I'd pushed away. The world had moved on, but I was trapped, sinking deeper into a darkness that swallowed everything I'd been. I was officially on leave from my graphic design job, my inbox a graveyard of unread messages. My portfolio, once a source of pride with its vibrant logos for Portland's food carts, sat untouched on my laptop, as useless as I felt. I tried to draw again, hoping to find a spark of the Noah who'd once dreamed of gallery shows, but my sketchpad was a battlefield of torn pages and angry scrawls, black voids, fractured lines, nothing that resembled art. I'd hurl it against the wall, the thud echoing my failure. Even my creativity, the one thing I'd always had, was gone, stolen by grief I couldn't outrun. Nights were a blur of bars and regret. I'd wander to dive spots in North Portland, places where the jukebox played Tom Waits and no one asked questions. I'd drink until the room spun, chasing oblivion, then wake up in my bed, or someone else's, with no memory of how I got there. These moments were my escape, but they came at a cost. I'd stare at myself in the bathroom mirror, my eyes hollow, my beard a tangled mess, and feel a wave of self-loathing so thick it choked me. "You're pathetic," I'd mutter, my voice foreign. The Noah who'd laughed with Caleb, who'd loved Ryan, was dead, replaced by this husk who broke everything he touched. I went back to Caleb's Cross on I-5, a ritual that hurt more each time. The driftwood was splintered now, battered by winter storms, just like me. I'd kneel in the gravel. The highways roared, drowning my sobs, and beg him to tell me how to go on. "You were the strong one," I whispered, clutching his hoodie, its scent barely there. "I can't do this without you." The cars sped by, indifferent, their headlights slicing through the dusk. I'd stay until my knees ached, then drive back, the 20 miles feeling like a lifetime. Once a cop stopped, asking if I was okay. I lied, said I'd lost something. He didn't press, but his pity burned worse than the truth. My parents were a wound that wouldn't heal. I drove to their town once, 50 miles of winding roads, hoping for something. Connection, maybe, but just a sign they still saw me as their son. Their house looked the same. White picket fence. Rose bushes mom tended like they were her children. I sat in my car, watching the windows, but didn't knock. What would I say? "I'm falling apart, and you don't care?" I knew their answer. Caleb was their loss, not me. I drove back to Portland, the silence in the car louder than any rejection they could have spoken. Ryan haunted me in ways I couldn't escape. I'd pass his old coffee shop, now under new management, its chalkboard wiped clean of his handwriting. I'd see couples in Powell's books, holding hands, and feel a stab of envy so sharp it took my breath. I stopped checking his Instagram after seeing him with that new guy, but the image was burned into me. Ryan's smile, once mine, now someone else's. I wrote him a letter once, sober, pouring out my regret, but tore it up before sending. He was gone, and I was the fool who'd driven him away, my grief a poison that infected everything. My friends were a memory I couldn't reach. I deleted my social media, tired of their happy lives mocking my misery. Once, I ran into an old friend, Jess, at a grocery store. She hugged me, said, "We've been worried," but her eyes darted away, uncomfortable. I mumbled something about being fine and left, my cart abandoned. They didn't want this Noah, the one who reeked of whiskey and despair. I didn't blame them, but their absence was another brick in the wall between me and the world. The summer of 2023 was creeping closer, and I dreaded it. Portland's vibrancy, its street fairs, its riverfront concerts, felt like a slap, a reminder of a life I'd lost. I'd walk the waterfront at night, the Willamette's current whispering of escape, of letting go. I'd stand on the Hawthorne Bridge, gripping the railing, the drop calling me. Caleb's voice, faint now, was the only thing that pulled me back. You're tougher than you think. But I wasn't. I was a coward, too weak to live, too scared to die. One night, I found a photo of Caleb and me, taken at a Timbers game, our faces painted green, his arm around me. I traced his smile, my fingers trembling, and felt a rage I couldn't name. Why him? Why me? I smashed the frame, glass scattering across my floor, and sank into the shards, not caring if they cut. Blood mixed with tears, and I sat there, numb, the rain outside adored for the man I'd been. This was my life, a spiral with no bottom, a darkness with no dawn, and I was too broken to find a way out. April 2023 draped Portland in a false warmth, the sun breaking through clouds to mock my misery. The city was waking up, food carts reopening, parks filling with laughter, but I was sinking deeper into a darkness that had no end. My name is Noah Carter, and at 30, I was a shadow of the man I'd been, broken by Caleb's death, Ryan's abandonment, and a summer I feared would finish me. My 600-square-foot apartment in the Hawthorne district was a shrine to my failures, littered with empty bottles, crumpled sketch pads, and the ghost of Caleb's hoodie, now scentless, draped over a chair. I was alone, my phone silent, my life a spiral I couldn't stop. I hadn't worked in months. My graphic design job was a memory, my boss's last message, "Let us know when you're ready," a formality I ignored. My laptop sat unopened, my portfolio frozen in time, its colorful designs a cruel reminder of a Noah who'd believed in himself. I tried sketching one night, desperate to reclaim something, but my hands betrayed me, producing only chaos, black smears, jagged tears across the page. I threw the sketch pad into a corner, its pages splayed like a corpse. Art, my last refuge, had abandoned me, leaving only the stranger I saw in a mirror, his eyes empty, his beard a wild tangle, his skin gray from neglect. Nights were my prison. I'd haunt bars in Old Town, places where the air was thick with smoke and despair. I'd drink until the world blurred, whiskey burning away the pain for a few hours. I'd find someone, a stranger with a name I wouldn't remember, seeking a fleeting escape in their touch. Morning brought shame, a wave so heavy it pinned me to the bed. I'd lie there, staring at the ceiling, hating the man I'd become. "You're disgusting," I'd whisper, my voice of strangers. The Noah who'd loved Ryan, who'd laughed with Caleb, was gone, replaced by this wreck who lived for the next drink, the next mistake. I kept returning to Caleb's Cross on I-5, a 20-mile drive that felt like a sentence. The driftwood was barely recognizable now, eroded by rain and time, a mirror of my own decay. I'd sit in the gravel, the highways roar a dull ache, and talk to him, my words swallowed by the wind. "I'm failing you," I'd say, clutching the hoodie, its fabric thin and frayed. "I don't know how to be without you." I'd cry until my throat was raw, then drive back, the city's lights a taunt, their glow belonging to a world I no longer fit. My parents were a wound I couldn't close. I hadn't spoken to them since that unanswered call, their silence a confirmation of my worthlessness. I dreamed of them sometimes, their faces cold, saying Caleb was enough. I woke sweating, the truth sharper than the dream. I was the son they'd never wanted, the gay one who'd shamed them. I thought about driving the 50 miles to their town, banging on their door, screaming, "I'm still here," but I didn't. Their rejection was a wall, and I was too weak to climb it. Ryan's ghost was everywhere. I walked past our old haunts, a taco cart on Belmont, a record store where we'd hunted for vinyl, and feel him like a blade in my chest. I found a photo of us once, tucked in a book, his arm around me, both of us smiling at a pride festival. I burned it in the sink, the flames licking the edges of our happiness, but it didn't erase the pain. I'd heard he was still in Portland, living with that new guy, their life a mockery of the one we'd planned. I wanted to hate him, but I only hated myself, my grief the poison that had driven him away. My friends were gone, their absence a quiet ache. I'd blocked their numbers, too ashamed to face their pity or their judgment. I saw one once, Alex, at a gas station. He called my name, his voice hesitant, but I turned away, pretending I hadn't heard. I didn't want his sympathy, didn't want to see the Noah he remembered reflected in his eyes. I was too far gone, a man who'd traded connection for isolation, who'd chosen the dark over the light they might have offered. Summer 2023 was a specter, its approach tightening the noose around my heart. Portland's energy, its street markets, its riverfront festivals, was a betrayal, a world that didn't care I was breaking. I'd walk the waterfront at dusk, the Willamette's current a siren call, urging me to let go. I'd stand on a Morrison bridge, my hands gripping the railing, the water below promising peace. Caleb's voice, fainter now, was a whisper. You're tougher than you think, but I wasn't. I was a coward, trapped between living and dying, too broken for either. One night, I found Caleb's old watch in a drawer. Its face cracked, stopped at the time of his death. I put it on, the leather band tight against my wrist, and felt a surge of rage. Why him? Why me? I smashed a glass against the wall, shards glittering like my fractured life. I sank to the floor, the watch ticking faintly, a lie against the silence. The rain pounded outside, a relentless dirge, and I sat in the wreckage, numb, my blood mixing with the spilled whiskey. This was my existence, a plummet with no end, a darkness that devoured hope, and I was too lost to see a way out. June 2023 smothered Portland in a suffocating heat, the kind that made the air feel like a fist. Summer had arrived, and with it, the darkest chapter of my life. My name is Noah Carter, and at 30, I was a wreck, shattered by Caleb's death, Ryan's abandonment, and a grief that had stripped me of everything. My job, my friends, my identity. My 600-square-foot apartment in the Hawthorne district was a festering wound, its floors littered with empty whiskey bottles, torn sketch pads, and Caleb's hoodie, now a lifeless rag I couldn't let go. The world outside buzzed with life, food carts, festivals, laughter, but I was a ghost, trapped in a darkness that grew thicker with each day. I hadn't touched my graphic design work in half a year. My laptop, buried under takeout containers, was a relic of a life I no longer lived. My boss had stopped emailing, my leave of absence now a silent firing. I didn't care. The Noah who designed logos for Portland's quirky cafes was gone, replaced by a man who couldn't even draw a straight line. I tried again, one desperate night, to sketch something, anything, but my hands shook, the pencil carving only chaos. Black spirals, broken shapes, a scream on paper. I ripped the page out, crumpled it, and threw it into the pile of failures that was my life. Nights were a descent into hell. I'd roam bars in northeast Portland, places where the lights were dim and the patrons were as lost as I was. I'd drink until my vision swam, whiskey a temporary shield against the pain. I'd seek out strangers, their faces blending into a haze of regret. Each encounter a deeper cut into my soul. I'd wake in unfamiliar beds or my own, the shame a weight I couldn't shake. You're nothing, I'd whisper to the mirror, my reflection a stranger with sunken eyes and a beard like a briar patch. My morals, once a compass, were dust, scattered by a grief I couldn't outrun. I kept visiting Caleb's cross on I-5, the 20-mile drive a ritual of torment. The driftwood was nearly gone now, a splintered remnant beaten by time, just like me. I'd collapse in the gravel. The highways were a cruel lullaby, and beg him for answers. I'm not you, Caleb, I'd sob, clutching the hoodie, its threads unraveling like my life. I can't keep going. The cars roared past, their indifference a mirror of the world's. I'd stay until my body ached, then drive back, Portland's skyline a taunt, its vibrancy a life I'd been exiled from. My parents were a scar I couldn't stop picking. I hadn't spoken to them in months, their silence a confirmation of my place in their world. The unwanted son, the gay one who'd never measured up to Caleb. I found a letter from Mom once, tucked in a box of Caleb's things they'd sent after the funeral. It was addressed to him, full of love, pride, words I'd never heard. I burned it in my sink, the ashes mixing with my tears, but the hurt stayed, a blade lodged in my chest. They were 50 miles away, but it might as well have been 1,000. Ryan's absence was a wound that wouldn't heal. I'd see him in the city's pulse, in the coffee shop's new barista, in the couples laughing at food carts. I found one of his old shirts in my closet, a flannel I'd worn when we'd camped in the gorge. I held it, inhaling nothing but dust, and felt a rage I couldn't name. He was out there, living, loving someone else, while I was here, dying inside. I tore the shirt to pieces, the sound of ripping fabric a scream I couldn't voice. 6 years, erased, and I was the one left bleeding. My friends were a memory I'd buried. I'd cut them off, their numbers deleted, their faces avoided. I saw Jess again, at a market, her smile faltering when she saw me. "Noah, you okay?" she asked, her voice soft. I lied, said I was fine, and walked away, my heart pounding. I didn't want her to see this Noah, the one who reeked of failure, who traded their friendship for a bottle. Their absence was my fault, but it hurt all the same, another loss in a life defined by them. Summer's arrival was a curse. Portland came alive, street fairs on Alberta, concerts by the river, but I was dead to it. I'd walk the waterfront at night, the Willamette's current a siren call, urging me to let go. I'd stand on the Burnside Bridge, my hands trembling on the railing, the water below whispering, "Let go." Caleb's voice, almost gone now, was a faint echo. "You're tougher than you think," but I wasn't. I was a shell, too weak to fight, too scared to fall. I'd walk away, each step a surrender to a life I didn't want. One night, I found Caleb's old journal in a box, its pages filled with his handwriting, plans, dreams, and note about me. Noah's going to do big things. I threw it across the room, the pages fluttering like broken wings, and screamed a raw animal sound. "Why him? Why me?" I smashed a bottle, the glass exploding, and sank into the wreckage, my hands bleeding, my heart numb. The heat pressed in, the city sang outside, and I sat in the dark, a man with nothing left, falling into an abyss with no bottom, no hope, no light. July 2023 burned Portland with a merciless heat, the kind that made the streets shimmer and the air choke. Summer was at its peak, and so was my despair, a black tide that had swallowed everything I'd once been. My name is Noah Carter, and at 30, I was a husk hollowed out by Caleb's death, Ryan's abandonment, and a grief that had stolen my job, my friends, my soul. My 600-square-foot apartment in the Hawthorne district was a graveyard, its floors buried under whiskey bottles, shredded paper, and Caleb's hoodie, now a tattered relic I clung to like a lifeline. The city pulsed with life, music festivals, riverfront crowds. But I was a specter, lost in a darkness with no horizon. I hadn't thought about work in months. My graphic design career, once a spark of pride, was a ghost, my laptop a useless weight under a pile of trash. My boss's silence confirmed what I already knew. I was done, fired without a word. I didn't care. The Noah who dreamed of art shows, who designed murals for Portland's dive bars, was dead. I'd stopped trying to draw, my sketchpad a monument to failure, its pages torn or blank, my hands too unsteady to hold a pencil. The mirror showed a stranger, gaunt, bearded, eyes like pits, a man who'd traded his life for a bottle and a lie. Nights were a ritual of self-destruction. I'd drift to bars in southeast Portland, places where the neon flickered and the air reeked of despair. I'd drink until I couldn't feel, whiskey a fleeting mercy that dulled the ache. I'd find strangers, their faces lost in the haze, their touch a momentary escape from the void. I'd wake to regret, the shame a blade that carved deeper each time. "You're worthless," I'd hiss at my reflection, my voice a rasp. The Noah who'd loved Ryan, who'd laughed with Caleb at Timbers games, was gone, replaced by this wretch who lived for the next drink, the next fall. I kept going to Caleb's Cross on I-5, the 20-mile drive of punishment I craved. The driftwood was a memory now, reduced to splinters by time and neglect, like me. I'd lie in the gravel, the highways roar a hymn to my failure, and scream at him, my voice raw. Why'd you leave me here? I'd beg, clutching the hoodie, its fabric so thin it barely held together. I'm nothing without you. The cars sped by, their headlights indifferent, the world uncaring. I'd stay until my body gave out, then drive back, Portland's skyline a cruel jest, its lights for someone else, not me. My parents were wound, I'd stopped trying to heal. I hadn't called in nearly a year, their silence a verdict. I wasn't their son, not really. I found Caleb's high school yearbook once, his senior photo, smiling, annotations from Mom about his track meets. Nothing about me. I threw it into a corner, the pages crumpling, but the pain stayed, a truth I couldn't burn away. Caleb was their light. I was their shadow, the gay son they'd never wanted. They were 50 miles away, a distance that felt infinite, their rejection a chain I couldn't break. Ryan was a phantom I couldn't exorcise. I'd see him in the city's rhythm, a barista's crooked smile, a couple's laughter at a food cart. I found a mixtape he'd made, hidden in a drawer, labeled for Noah, 2018. I played it, Springsteen's voice filling the room, and felt my heart crack. He was out there, building a life with someone new, while I was here rotting. I smashed the tape, the plastic shattering, but it didn't ease the ache. 6 years, and I was the one left behind, my grief the poison that had killed us. My friends were a memory I'd erased. I'd blocked them all, their faces a reminder of a Noah I couldn't face. I saw Alex at a bus stop once, his eyes widening before he looked away. I didn't stop, didn't speak, my shame a wall between us. They tried, once, but I was too much, my darkness a weight they couldn't carry. I didn't blame them, but their absence was a cut, another loss in a life that was nothing but. Summer's vibrancy was a torture. Portland danced, concerts on the waterfront, markets on Mississippi Avenue, but I was a corpse unmoved. I'd walk the river at midnight, the Willamette's surface a mirror of my emptiness. I'd stand on the steel bridge, my fingers white on the railing, the water below a promise of silence. Caleb's voice, barely a whisper now, flickered. You're tougher than you think. But I wasn't. I was a ruin, too broken to rise, too weak to fall. I'd turn away, each step a defeat, a surrender to a life I hated. One night, I found Caleb's old running shoes, tucked under my bed, the laces frayed, the soles worn from his races. I held them, my fingers tracing the dirt, and felt a fury I couldn't contain. Why him? Why was I still here? I threw them against the wall, the thud a hollow echo, and collapsed, my hands tearing at my hair. The heat pressed in, the city's pulse mocked me, and I lay in the wreckage, blood and tears mixing with the sweat. This was my reality, a plummet into an abyss with no end, a darkness that consumed everything, and I was too far gone to dream of light. August 2025 scorched Portland, the heat a relentless weight that pressed me deeper into the abyss. Summer's end was here, but there was no relief, no dawn for the darkness that had consumed me. My name is Noah Carter, and at 32, I was a ruin, shattered by Caleb's death 3 years ago, Riley's abandonment, and a grief that had erased my job, my friends, my identity. My 600-square-foot apartment in the Hawthorne district was a crypt, its floors buried under whiskey bottles, torn sketch pads, and Caleb's hoodie, now a threadbare ghost I couldn't release. The city thrived, street fairs, riverfront lights, but I was nothing, a shadow in a void with no end. I hadn't worked since early 2023. My graphic design career, once a flicker of hope, was ash, my laptop a forgotten relic under a pile of debris. I've been fired long ago, my silence a resignation my boss didn't contest. I didn't care. The Noah who'd crafted logos for Portland's food trucks, who dreamed of art galleries, was dead. My sketchpad, untouched for months, was a gravestone, its pages a testament to my failure. Ripped, stained, empty. The mirror showed a monster. Skeletal, bearded, eyes like voids, a man who traded his life for liquor and lies. Nights were a descent into oblivion. I'd stumble to bars in East Portland, places where the air was sour and the shadows hid the broken. I'd drink until I was numb, whiskey a cruel lover that offered no comfort. I'd seek strangers, their faces a blur, their touch a fleeting distraction from the pain. I'd wake to despair, the shame a chain around my heart. You're gone, I'd whisper to my reflection, my voice a hollow echo. The Noah who'd loved Riley, who'd cheered with Caleb at Timbers games, was erased, replaced by this shell who craved only the next fall. I still drove to Caleb's cross on I-5, the 20-mile journey a ritual of agony. The driftwood was gone, washed away by time, leaving only a patch of gravel where my brother's life ended. I'd collapse there, the highways roar a dirge, and scream into the void. I'm sorry, I'd sob, clutching the hoodie, its fabric disintegrating. I can't do this. The car sped by, blind to my pain, the world a stranger. I dragged myself back, Portland's skyline a mockery, its glow a life I'd never touch again. My parents were a wound I'd given up on. I hadn't spoken to them since 2023, their silence a sentence. I was no son of theirs. I found a photo of Caleb in their Christmas card from years ago, his smile radiant, mine absent. I tore it apart, the pieces fluttering like my broken heart, but the truth remained. Caleb was their son, I was their shame, the gay one they'd never loved. They were 50 miles away, a chasm I couldn't cross, their rejection a truth I'd internalized. Riley was a scar that bled anew each day. I'd see him in Portland's pulse, a barista's laugh, a couple's embrace at a food cart. I found a note he'd written, tucked in a book, * Noah, you're my home. * I burned it, the flames consuming our past, but the pain stayed, a reminder of a life he'd built without me. He was out there, happy with someone else, while I was here, a corpse in a living city. 6 years, and I was the one left to rot, my grief the venom that had killed us. My friends were a memory I'd killed. I'd cut them off, their numbers erased, their pity unbearable. I saw Jess one last time, at a corner store, her eyes sad but distant. I turned away, my shame a barrier I couldn't breach. They tried, but I was too far gone, my darkness a plague they couldn't survive. Their absence was my fault, a final loss in a life defined by loss. Summer's vibrancy was a torment. Portland sang, concerts, markets, life, but I was mute, a specter in a world that didn't see me. I'd walk the waterfront at night, the Willamettes current a call to surrender. I'd stand on the Broadway bridge, my hands shaking on the railing, the water below offering silence. Caleb's voice was gone now, no echo to pull me back. I was too weak to live, too broken to die. I'd walk away, each step a curse, a life I couldn't escape. One night, I found Caleb's old keychain, a Timbers logo he'd carried everywhere. I held it, my fingers bleeding from a bottle I'd smashed, and felt nothing. No rage, no tears, just emptiness. The city hummed outside, the heat pressed in, and I sat in the wreckage, a man with no future, no past, no light. I lost everything, Caleb, Riley, myself, and I didn't know how to go on. What should I do?